Welcome back to Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here with Dr. Courtney Ratch. We're talking about mostly Russian disinformation and propaganda campaigns. But since we're on the topic, Courtney, President Biden has recently announced a disinformation governance board. Good idea, bad idea? Tell us your thoughts on that.
Well, I think it's a good idea to bring in outside experts to try to help the government figure out how to address disinformation. I think it's a bad idea to do that in the Department of Homeland Security and to do it in a way that has been really less than transparent and has not, really responded to reporters' requests for greater information, which is an important part of the equation of how you combat disinformation, making sure you provide good information.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, that's created the story, hasn't it? Rather than the intention to combat disinformation. Is government any good at regulating against disinformation versus legitimate free speech? Is this something that government can do well?
So far, there's very little evidence that it has done it well, but I think that there is potential to do it well if they get at some of the root causes. And so instead of trying to regulate, the expressive intent that can be done online, I think we need to look at more foundational aspects like data transparency and access to data so that people can understand how things flow through the system, how disinformation gets amplified, what role these different platforms play in that process. You can look at mandated transparency for advertising of all kinds, not just during elections, restrictions potentially on foreign advertisers, or again, making sure you have transparency and that sort of information is available to researchers and others who want to use it to understand what's happening. I think you can also look at things like data portability so that you're not stuck on any one platform. So there are a lot of different types of things that can be done, as well as I think opening up the can of worms that is Section 230, but really rethinking what this idea of intermediary liability means when it comes to user-generated content and how you can, say, mitigate against the weaponization and monetization of that.
Well, since I've got you on the program, of course, the big story for the last few weeks, at least, has been Elon Musk and his takeover bid for Twitter. Is that another threat, or is he a free speech hero? How should we process this?
I mean, he's neither. He's a very wealthy billionaire who has already colonized vast swaths of the public sphere, including the night sky, large swaths of space, potentially our minds with Neuralink. So I think we need to look at this for what it is, which is another billionaire, rich white dude wants to buy up a very important part of the public sphere. Now, he wants to be a free speech maximalist, but at the same time, he said he's going to comply with laws. Those things are at odds because most laws around the world are not as permissive for free speech as American laws are, and they don't have the same protection from intermediary liability. So I think he's going to come up against a reality check. And also, most people don't want to swim in the cesspool that is Twitter without content moderation. It's already very problematic when it comes to online harassment, hate speech, et cetera.
Right.
So lifting some of those is just going to be more difficult.
Yeah, and I guess Europe is actually tightening up its content moderation requirements, right?
Yes. So the Digital Services Act mandates certain types of content moderation. And so if Twitter and Musk want to stay in Europe, it's going to have to comply. And there are at least 24 countries around the world, according to Freedom House, that have content moderation related laws that mandate when you can do content moderation, how you can do it, when you have to take down illegal content or leave up content. And so, he's going to come up against the reality check that is there is a patchwork of international legislation that Twitter is going to have to figure out how to comply with or when to disregard. And that's going to have, of course, economic and political implications.